here with today's COVID-19 virtual event series. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I do want to go ahead and announce, though, that we have more of these scheduled through the month of May. So if you haven't yet, go to har.com/webinars and sign up for the upcoming events that we have scheduled for this month. We have some really great speakers, including our guest today, Ray Holtzapple. Ray is a broker in the Houston area. He specializes in the Harris County area with new construction and resale markets. He's also active in the community. He's a former member of the Harris County Appraisal District Board of Directors representing the city of Houston. He's also been HAR's representative to the University of Houston Real Estate Center Advisory Committee. In addition to his brokerage activities, he's also a licensed property tax consultant and works with commercial and residential clients on protesting the valuation of real and business personal property. He was awarded the National Association of Realtors Omega Tau Rho Medallion of Service and his work for better legislation for the benefit of Texas residents. So Ray, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to hear from you.
Well, I'm glad to be here and glad to have a few of my friends on here. Last count, we were close to what, 220 some people?
Yes, and we have just about 200 on right now. So
okay, great.
I'm sure they're ready to hear from you. Ray does have a presentation for us today, and we will take questions at the end. So if you have questions as we're going through, type them in and I'll make sure that we get to them. Take it away, Ray. The floor is yours.
Okay, let's get started. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Christina, will they have access to this presentation when we're done?
Yes, that is a good point that I forgot to mention. Thank you. We are recording this and we will have it available on our YouTube channel later this afternoon.
Great, great, great. Okay, so protests, and we all go in with great expectations, but most people I hear are frustrated to no end by the time they walk out, or they smile big and just say, boy, did I pull one over on them. So, you know, it's one of those things where great expectations are there. Protesting system overview, let's go through it. This year is a unique year for a lot of reasons. You can protest your taxes every year and we highly recommend it, okay? If nothing more, what you do is you get access to the evidence package that they use to value your property. And you don't have to show up or do anything. It used to be that they could raise your property taxes on you, your valuation, if they didn't like what you told them. Well, the legislation fixed that, and that they can't do that anymore. So you're pretty safe. The appraisal district sends out the notice as of January 1. So that's important. They can look up to January 31 for sales and equity comps, but January 1 is the magic date every year. Every district enforces the rules a little differently. All districts are required to post a valuation to you by mail or on their website. A protest form is included, okay? That's that little green sheet that you get. They revised it quite a bit this year, and instead of signing it on the front page, you sign it on the back page. Now, as a realtor, one of the things you can do is assist your clients in their tax protests, and they can put your name in at the bottom when they send that in, and then you have the right to go in with them or actually represent them for the tax protest. I think it's a great marketing tool, and you ought to be looking at doing that. If nothing more, it keeps you in front of your client. It's one more touch point. And what I do is I send out something to my clients at January about 15th saying, it's that time of the year to start thinking about taxes. Once you protest, you're normally provided access to the district appraiser in an informal meeting. That's interesting. For agents, which I can only speak for right now because they haven't promulgated the rules for homeowners, it's basically you have to present your evidence to them via a website 1 week ahead of when you say you would like to talk with them. So there's no in-person informals right now. And then they also pointed out in a letter we got yesterday that there's no new evidence can be introduced except that which you sent in. So evidence that you create is even more important this year than it was in the past years because you can't add anything to it. I'm not sure how they're going to do homeowners. I would think they're hoping that they can open up and do that by then, but they're trying to get most of the agents done ahead of time. If you're not successful, in your opinion, again, you don't have to accept what they do. An informal appraisal review board, the formal appraisal review board is set. Now, I want to warn you, if you do I settle, that's the same as an informal. So that takes away your informal if you send in evidence, and that's the way it has been done in the past. So be careful about that. Not sure how this will be handled. Since social distancing, this option may not be available. They don't know how they're going to do the ARB. I was talking to the chief appraiser for Harris County the other day, Roland Altinger, and he says, we have 4 or 5 ways of doing this. But one of the problems that they have is some of the people from the ARB that's been on it for years don't want to get into a room with a lot of people. So we're trying to figure out how it's going to happen. So no later than 14 days prior to the hearing, you'll have the evidence package. And that's very, very important to review that evidence package. Important date. 31 we talked about, January 31 is the last day to pay your taxes before they're delinquent. This is if you get the normal tax bill. If you get a tax bill later than, let's say sometime in January because things were delayed, in fact, our personal taxes were delayed until March, you actually have 30 days to pay your taxes. But basically most of us deal with, on a normal basis, the January 31. Interest and penalties occur after that. And 12%, 6, 12, it gets expensive. So ensure your clients are paying their taxes. One of the things that people ask me about all the time is, well, I pay mine under an escrow account. Then it becomes that lender's responsibility, and if they don't pay it on time, from a federal income tax, you paid them, you can deduct it, but clearly the mortgage company is on the hook for any interest or penalties. Last day to make the second payment if you're over 65 or disability homestead accounts. Now, the next one, additional penalties. If you go past April 1, you will basically get a 20% kicker on top of that, and they turn it over to a collection agency. And I've tried without any success getting that removed. Last day to file the exemption for application for homestead and over 65. By the way, if you go ahead and file for over 65 anytime during the year, that's almost automatic anymore because you have access to the driver's license, but you still have to file. You can help your clients do that. Keep track of it. Another touch point, great marketing tool. Last day to protest, May 15th. Boy, that's coming up quickly. So if you received your notice and it was dated March 30, then you basically have until the 15th of May. If you just received a notice, I've had a couple of people call me yesterday and said, gee, I just received my notice. When do I have to do the May 15th? I said, no, you have 30 days from the date of that letter, not the day you receive it, but the date of the letter. That's an important point. Again, if you keep in touch with your clients, let you be the source for them on this information.
That's great. Thank you. Right. I just wanted to let you know we're hearing a little bit of feedback on your microphone.
Okay.
I don't know if there's something close to it or if you might be able to move it a little closer to you.
Is that better?
We're just getting a little bit of feedback.
Is that better?
I'm still hearing it. So we can probably just try to tune it out if we can't get rid of it, but that's okay.
Okay.
Let's keep going. A lot of important
information.
And and we're getting a lot of good questions for you too. So let's just
Okay.
keep going.
July 1, I was mistaken. That's when the 20% kicks in. So July 20th, interesting. Last year in legislative session, they moved up the date from the middle of August to July 20th. This is becoming a perfect storm for tax protest time. And then, you know, over 65 can go ahead and do it in multiple payments with no interest or penalties. All tax districts must make the tax rates set by September 30th. Tax bills are mailed out. They try to get them out as quickly as they can, but usually around October 1 to the 15th. And so that's it. Now, on the lighter side, let's look at how HCAD or somebody, appraisal district would look at your house. That's how you see your house. Nice Heights bungalow, okay? That's how the buyer sees the house, okay? Well, that's how the mortgage lender sees the house. You know, it's not a, and then the lender's appraiser, boy, they really nail you. And that's how the appraisal district sees your house every time. So they see it a little better than you do sometimes. Fort Bend, Montgomery County. I have been active in Fort Bend and Montgomery County for 3 or 4 years. I am not doing much there because they are not the most friendliest place to do business. Neither CAD sets the informal hearing for you. You have to set it up. You have to call them. You can wander in there and set it up. But they don't, Montgomery County, actually, you can go before your ARB, they'll ask you, gee, did you do an informal? No. You go in, the appraiser may talk to you and may listen, but don't bet on it. I have stopped doing the protests in those counties because of that. The goal of an agent is to be successful for their clients. All rules and ARB decisions are legal steps. If the results are not favorable, you can apply. Basically, you can apply for a lawsuit. There's 2 things: arbitration, and this applies to any appraisal district. Arbitration is a $500 entry fee. If you're successful in reducing the difference between what you say it is and what the appraisal district said, more than 50%, you get $450 back, or your client does. In a lawsuit, you got to watch lawsuits. They're interesting. They cost you a minimum of about $1,500 just to get involved. So you have to look at how much savings you're going to have in order to make it worthwhile. Harris County, after your protest is filed, informal hearing is set. This is the way it has been. I really don't know. Again, the chief appraiser is not giving me a lot of insight as to what they're doing. Agents, we're all well and set, and we're working. iFile is the link to your evidence package. You get an iFile number, which goes with that property as long as you own it. And then don't forget your password. So if your client does protest, have them give you the iFile information, including their password, so you can look at the evidence package. iSettle is one of the things that's available to the homeowners, and that's where you send in your information. I think that's what they're going to rely on at the end of the day here, is more iSettle stuff and the process that they've used before on that. And more people are using iSettle. If you're successful, accept the value and go home happy, okay? If not happy, formal ARB hearing will be scheduled no sooner than 15 days. Now, that's at HCAD. ARB hearing is normally 15 minutes. And if you do not show up and provide an affidavit, the value that they set is the value that will stand. Again, they can't raise your taxes like they could in the past if they looked at the evidence. What does the ARB do? With the evidence you present and the CAD evidence, the ARB will make a determination. They listen to both presentations, and you know, us realtors, we look at people's body language to figure out if they're paying attention or not. It's important. Make sure they're not nodding off on you. They sent an ARB member home in one of my presentations last year because I bored them to death and they fell asleep. That was really a fun time. So I had to deal with two people. I asked for the third one, but they gave me everything I wanted, so I wasn't complaining. If you're satisfied, go home. If not, you can go ahead and do the arbitration and lawsuit. There's some other arcane methods that aren't used very often. That's mainly for agents and attorneys. The most important thing, no matter what year you're dealing with, is your evidence package. I think it's even more important this year that it's clear and concise, and you should look at the evidence package for the correct square footage of it, the construction type, and the physical condition. Improvement, repairs necessary to be in the same condition as the sales. It is amazing. They're not accepting, gee, I need double pane glass. Everybody else has double pane glass. This is the problem because the model doesn't take into all these considerations. The model focuses on size of the house, size of the land, and what they call the CDU, or condition, desirability, and utility. We'll talk a little bit about that a little more. Land. So you have improvement and you have land. Land are the factors that apply for topographic, square footage correction, economic factors, traffic, flooding. An example of the traffic is in the River Oaks area. If you live along San Felipe, they put a 0.8 factor on the land. So all the land is $160, let's say. So it'll be 0.8 times that, and that'll be the land factor, the land cost for you. Can taxpayer correct these areas? I hate to say this, but probably not. Me as an agent, having been on the board of directors, I have some access to some people, and I've gotten some of this stuff corrected. But normally the informal people don't want to talk about land factors, and they don't want to talk about land factors, certainly at the ARB, because the only thing they're worried about is market value. And I've tried to do this during legal activities, and they don't want to hear about it. But they are required by law to change these factors if you have evidence that they are incorrect. Sales analysis, you'll have up to 5 sales, it's in a spreadsheet, and they can go back over 3 years. Look at these sales analysis. With your clients, pull up the sales information, get the pictures to them. That way they can see how their house compares with what the appraisal district is saying are comparables. Equity analysis. This used to be the most squirrely thing in the world. Now they have it looking, at HCAD, they have it looking like the sales. And they compare the square feet, improvement, and make adjustments. Again, what you have to do or have your client do is drive these equity properties. Look at them, take pictures, come up with reasons why they aren't really equivalent to your house. And every once in a while, you'll have a sales, it's also an equity, which can work to your advantage. Developing your evidence package. This is a court of law you're going into. You must review the evidence package that the CAD presents. You can have all the information about your next door neighbor or the block or the area, but you have to focus first on the evidence from the appraisal district. It has to, your package has to be complete and concise. Even more important this year, if you have to send it in a week ahead, you're going to have your ducks in a row, and you just can't ad-lib when you get on the phone. Have detailed repairs, those that affect the marketability of the property. Roofs, if you have a roof damage. Foundation issues. If you have windows that are rotting, if you have windows that don't work, If you have water damage to the floors because of, let's say you're an elevated house and you have ponding underneath the house, get the estimates, have them available, and do what I say is a summary of the costs, and then provide the estimates behind it. Have great pictures of the interior, exterior, and repair areas. Pictures really help you get your message across to the people you're talking with. Visit the comps for the, and take pictures. As I mentioned before, HAR information is very important. Visit the equity properties, take pictures. Again, go back and look and see what the sales were on these equity properties. They may not have been recent sales, but they should have pictures. And then bring 4 copies with you. I'm not sure what you're going to do this year. Probably send it in if they try to do this via the phone, and send the stuff in, and then they'll disseminate it. But normally you would bring 4 copies. Back to basics. What's important in review of the evidence package? When you deal with most agents, you never see the evidence package. And this is unfortunate. What I recommend and what I told you to do is get the information for the I-file, which is the district evidence package, and get the information for their password. Go in and look at the first 11 pages. If you're helping them and you are in fact getting the evidence, make sure your client gets the first 11 pages. Most everything you need to review with your client is in that first 11 pages. If there's no sales, basically you need to provide some comps. If HCAD provides sales, then we need to find out if they're comparable and what is different. Again, that's doing your due diligence and getting. Equity is always fun. I do a comparison spreadsheet, but do not spend a lot of time on equity. Only if there's no sales do I focus on equity. When you look at the HCAD website, it's the best site. Christina said I was on the board of directors for HCAD representing the city of Houston. And going around the country at different meetings and stuff, I found out that HCAD is the equivalent of HAR. Okay, it's the best in the United States. It is the second largest central appraisal district in the United States. Only larger is Chicago. There's only over 1.7 million parcels that they have to do every year. So CDU, I talked about CDU. That's condition, desirability, and utility. This is the most important starting point. That's where the model starts. And you have from excellent down to poor. And most homes should be average. Newer homes can be very good, but remember, if it's all brand new homes, they ought to all be average because they're all the same. So in your subdivisions, you're looking at this, but make sure it's right. That's where I start. And most of the people that come to me, I look at that when I do a quick scan and I ask them about their house, and they got a 1925 house and they have it as very good and they haven't done any remodeling. Well, something's not right. Okay. So that's where you are, and that's where your pictures and repairs come in. Look at the square footage and improvement. Year built and remodeled, partial or full. Again, if something was remodeled in the, let's say 98, that's pretty dated. And basically you got to prove the point that the countertops are not granite and they're not fancy, and gee, all the comparables that they are dealing with have those features. Land factors and price per square foot. Again, we talked about the land factors, very, very difficult, but make sure they make sense. One of the things I did last year, there was a house in River Oaks that backed up to the railroad tracks, a substation, and floods. Okay, other than that, there's no problems. So it's one of those things where I went in through the back door because I knew I couldn't do it otherwise, and got everything fixed. And even the square footage of the house wasn't right. So the guy at the end of the day saved 25% on a $5 million house on his taxes. Now I worked myself out of a job because of that, because I could have fought it every year, the same thing. But no, I'm glad my client has that savings going forward. Last year's value, 5-year history. You can go in and see what the history of the appraised levels have been. HCAD mapping. Nobody else has this. If you go into the HCAD site, it's hcad.org, under mapping, there's 2 of them. Use the interactive mapping, get used to it. Not only is it good for tax protests, but it's fantastic for going ahead and doing your comps and figuring out where they are. What you do is you either put in the name of the owner, the ad, or the property tax ID number, and it pulls up that location. You can click on it and pull up the HCAD sheet. You can get out of that HCAD sheet and click on any other property, and it does the same thing. So you don't have to go in and put in, like we used to, each time. That happened on my watch, and Roland Alting, the chief appraiser, is to be thanked for that. Love it, use it all the time. Better than sliced bread. Current tax bill. Not all taxing districts are listed here. That's important. Like Alief School District, Cy-Fair, they do not include their tax bill on Harris County. So when you click on look at the current tax bill, it'll take you to Harris County taxing authority. And then you go ahead and you can see all the tax rates and everything else. That's really important. And by the way, when you print it out in landscape, because if you print it out otherwise, half the information is missing. Map, print, and view capabilities. One of the things that you can do when you go into the information on a property is you can print out and you can actually see the FEMA maps on this. And you need to go in there and play around with it. There's a lot of information here. Let me pull the plug on that phone. I literally pulled the plug, so we're good. Okay, general information provided on the iFile. Provided by HCAD, I said normally 10 to 14 days in advance, provide the details. Important to focus on. I'm of the old adage, you say it 3 times and people will notice it, okay? Here we go, improvement in land size, grade, never changes from the original. Focus on the CDU. Appraised value, both market and appraised. Now, when you go in to protest, remember, you're protesting the market value. And where you actually help your clients save money is if the market value and the appraised value are both the same. It's called capped, okay? For every dollar you save them or help them save on the market value, they actually save on taxes. There were some agents that were caught billing people on savings on market value when they didn't save their clients any money on the appraised value. That happened 4 or 5 years ago, and the state got involved in that. So make sure you understand what's going on there and what position your client's in as far as market and appraised value. And selected market sales comps. What else does the iFile provide you? HCAD improvement size calculation. It shows you the measurements, and it'll show you a drawing of each level of the house or the property. Now, you used to be able to see that from the public side, but 4 legislative sessions ago, they said, no, you can't do that. So they took that off. The other thing they took off is they used to have over 65 exemption notice on the public side. Now it just says multiple exemptions. Too many people were getting scammed by knowing it's over 65. But again, I'm not sure what multiple exemptions do except tell you that it's over 65. Field notes on the on-site inspection. Field notes are funny. I have one field note that I look at and laugh at. It says, the homeowner was mad. He says HCAD ought to stop wasting his time. And that was the field note. But the field notes are interesting. And here's something you should do. If you have an older house and things are really not right, you can ask for a field inspection. Generally, the appraiser is not allowed to come into the house or walk around on the property unless invited by the homeowner. We've had maids invite people in. We've had other things happen. So if you need a field inspection, set it up. If you don't want a field inspection, make sure the owner knows that they only can be invited in. And make sure if you have people there that could invite them in and don't know any better, and you don't want them in, to tell them, don't let anybody in. Details on HCAD, the CAMA model. This is their mass appraisal model. Very, very elaborate. HCAD's is unique to anybody else's. There's a new one being worked on up in Fort Worth. It is not going well. And HCAD was looking at taking that model on. If they did a conversion, it would take 4 years to make the full conversion. It's extremely difficult. A detailed spreadsheet on the results of the market comps. They get into each of the market comps and they'll give you 4 or 5 pages of market stuff, but they pulled out 5, up to 5, that they think are comparable. Look at those, and they'll go ahead and dig deeper if you can dispel some of them. They'll actually pull this up in front of the ARB and start going through all this magic. Hang on, it happens. Detailed spreadsheet on equity. They actually do the calculations on each of the equity properties and show you the difference and how they come up with it. I don't spend a lot of time, as I said. List of sales improved and lots used. That's in the CAMA model. Goes back 3 years. They're listed by neighborhoods and then areas. The up to 40 pages of information. As I said, first 10 to 12 pages. Make sure the 11 pages are in the property owner's hands. Okay, doing your research. You got the HAR website. As a realtor, work with your clients on the sales information. This is an interesting dilemma. HCAD does not have direct access to HAR information on sales. There is a company that compiles that information, but fuzzes it up quite a bit. So I'm not sure we as real estate agents and brokers, if we're providing that information to HCAD, do we have a problem? Never been able to get a clear understanding on that, but I'm basically showing them pictures and not a lot of other details, except when a realtor goes ahead and says, oh, there's 1,000 square feet that HCAD doesn't know about. I think that's very interesting, and that's one of the big things that I point out, that HCAD may not have all the right information. And we talked about interactive. Go ahead and try it. I think you'll enjoy it and see the benefit for you as a real estate agent. Presenting your evidence, you have 7 to 8 minutes, total 15 in the past. Make sure the board is not being bored, no pun intended. Watch them to see if you're losing their attention. If you lost your attention, guess what? You're done for. Don't repeat yourself. Major points, it's time to listen to what the CAD appraiser presents and take notes. Always go first. Because what you're going to do in your presentation is do a rebuttal of the CAD evidence. Therefore, you don't have to wait for them to present their evidence and then try to figure out what you're going to rebut. And if you, during the rebuttal of the CAD evidence, you have no new evidence that you can present. They'll cut you off very quickly. Never know how you'll end up. One of the things that we had been teaching, but the virus had taken us out of this, is a 3-hour course for MCE on this, where I actually get involved with showing you how to present your evidence and prepare a package. Hopefully that's back sometime in the near future. We'll just have to see if we can social distance less than 6 feet when this happens. Okay, I'm a broker, and as Christina said, this is kind of some of the stuff that I did. If you need to contact me, again, I'm here to help you. If you have questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. Keep it during normal business hours, please. No midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning calls. I do take emergency calls. I've had a couple of those, but those have been during normal business hours. So anyhow, that's kind of it.
Great. We have a lot of questions, Ray.
Okay. Can I take care of the first 2 that were sent in ahead of time?
Sure, go ahead.
Let me do that. Some were sent in ahead of time. One is there a cap on how much you can go up on land value of a property under homestead? The land portion went up 34% this year. Would be good to understand how the cap works for homestead and over 65. Okay. The only time that they are controlled on raising appraised value is when a house is homesteaded. Homestead over 65, same difference. You can't be over 65 without a homestead. You can go up 10% in any given year until you get to the equivalent of the market value. So if you have enough room to go up more than 10%, they can only go up 10%. And then the market value, and this is the market value that they basically notice you at. So that's why it's important to protest every year and figure out where they are and keep that market value down, because it will keep the appraised value down, especially when you get capped. Land portion going up 34% real quickly. It's the overall value. It's broken out into land and improvements. And that is done primarily to try to, show neighborhoods are different from land values, but it's the overall number that you protest. That's it. The other question was, if a client purchases a home, tax appraisal is typically the purchase price. Could they appeal the appraisal? Yes, I just talked to someone earlier today, and they just purchased a house. I said, take your HUD, or what's left of a HUD 1 statement in, it's quite a bit different, and show them what you paid, and that should work for you. Now, on 2 occasions, I've had people say, where we built a house and had the construction costs and the land costs, they said, well, we can't do it for that. I said, yes, you can, we did it. They said, well, we'll have to adjust it next year. I said, good luck. But we still, 4 years later, still have not got near the cap. So my client is benefiting from that effort up front. So new construction, if you build your own or your clients build their own, take those construction costs in. I've got 2 of them this year. I've got to take construction costs in to work on. Okay, Christina, questions?
All right. Yeah, we have a lot of questions. So you mentioned a few counties, but people were asking comparisons to Montgomery County, comparisons to Fort Bend, comparisons to Galveston County and Brazoria County. I think I even saw one more, Waller County. So people just kind of asking specifics about their counties, questions about doing it online or in person in these counties, and just ease of working with these counties. You mentioned difficulty with Fort Bend and Galveston County. So people were specifically asking for suggestions on how to work with those two counties.
Well, the key thing is the quality of the evidence package. And I think that's where it gets down to.
I'm sorry, also Brazos County.
Okay. Well, I have no information on Brazos. I've never been down there. Although I've had a couple of people say they're really good to work with. So I don't know about Brazos personally. Until this year, you actually had to pay for your evidence at Fort Bend. It was $10 for residential and $25 for commercial. And the evidence I got was not very good, nothing like HCAD. Okay, Montgomery County, friendlier, tried to work with you. I've had some success up there, but last year, my one protest I went up there for, they raised all the land values a horrendous amount, had them all the same for 5 years, and they wouldn't give me any basis for raising the land. And the comps that they used were not even close to comps. And the ARB didn't want to listen to them. Didn't want to listen at all. And then one of the other ones I had up there, a house was on the market for 2.5 years, and they wouldn't even give me the market price. And it was $150,000 over what it was supposed to be. And so they split the baby and went halfway, but wouldn't give me the market price. And they said, well, the guy obviously isn't interested in selling. Hello? It had nothing to do with anything. So again, you never know what you're going to end up with. And neither of them were worth suing, unfortunately.
So we also have a lot of questions about if there will be any extensions because of COVID that you know of.
No, not protest-wise. I don't see any extensions because it's not really necessary.
Okay.
Okay. Sending a filing online or mailing something in isn't affected by the virus.
And a lot of these counties, all these counties you mentioned, do they all accept the online filing? Are there any that you're aware of that do not accept online filing?
No, they all, I think, have to, by law, accept online filing of the protest.
And I saw people asking about where to go for specific counties to do it online. I tried to send out those direct links to a few of you guys, but I was just finding them by Googling. So I would just Google it and you'll find them really easily. Okay, very good. So a lot more questions here for you.
Okay.
Very good. Let's see here. Let me scroll back up. People are asking for some definitions, so I typed them in. ARB is Appraisal Review Board. CDU is Condition, Desirability, and Utility. There was questions about comparables. So some people heard that you can only use comparables from 2019. Also, so they're asking how far back we can go with comparables, and also, can we only use sold or can we also use active and pending?
No, you can only use sold because that's the market, okay? And you can go back up to 3 years. And it's not like us in real estate where appraiser needs to have 3, 4, or 5 comps, and they don't want to go more than 6 months because the market changed. That's not the way it is. They just take the raw numbers, they throw them into the model, and the model kind of sets which ones they want. The model is very elaborate. As a board director, I managed to get them to let me run the model. Nobody else ran the model. And in fact, nobody on the board of directors ever protested their taxes, which is pretty hard to believe that somebody was running a company that didn't know what the business was. But it's the model is just focus on the evidence, get that evidence, get it in your hands, and then you can work your way through it.
Okay. There was a few questions about 65 plus that I've seen people answering in the comments. what is the percent tax discount for 65 plus?
Well, it varies from district to district. Even homestead varies from district to district. Some districts do not give homestead, but they reduce the taxes for everybody. West University has special taxing, okay, that's different from the rest of the area. Questions on that really have to be going to the tax office because it's no set thing. The exemptions say $10,000 on school taxes, but some are greater than that in the value.
Kind of a follow-up question there.
Yeah.
If Cheryl was asking, is it worth it for over 65 to protest assessed value since most entities are already frozen on values in the year you turn 65?
Well, they're not frozen, okay? You still have market value. What is frozen is the percentage that first year. Say you had a 30% reduction over what the normal tax is. That 30% is carried forward, not only on your property, but in fact, if you buy a bigger property or a little property or move out of the county, that percentage goes with you. It's ported to the new property. So I have somebody that just moved from Westview, $700,000 house. They got a letter saying, you're over 65, this is your percentage. Bought a house in the Heights, okay? And the big question was, how does that apply? But you have to go to the tax office and really get the detailed explanation for your particular area.
Okay. Kind of three questions I'm going to lump together here because I think they're all kind of on the same wavelength. But Karen said Matagorda County went up 80% on land value, second home, not homestead. How do you fight that? They're difficult to negotiate with. Also, Anna was asking, do you recommend hiring a professional to protest? And Heather also asked, is settling a good option? Do you recommend it?
Oh yeah, settlement is a great option if you can get satisfied. I settled a couple properties last year. Hiring an agent, very interesting question. I'll tell you how most agents work. The large firms, they go in, they sit down, they have 50 to 100 accounts that they're going to go through in one sitting on a day. And how detailed can you get? If you look at 15 minutes, you don't have 15 minutes, okay? You only have 10 minutes to go through it. So, and most agents don't go look at the property. They don't ask, they may send out a letter saying, you got any problems? Send me pictures. So if you're going to hire an agent, figure out what they're going to do for you and how they're going to do it. Okay. And what agents charge go all over the place, from 50% I've seen from some of the large firms down to 20%. So, and then like I do, on the litigation side, I work by the hour because most of the work is already done in putting the presentation together, which can be 20 pages long, your evidence package. So, you know, it's one of those things where find out how the agent works and what the agent's going to do for you. And you can, as a realtor, you can really help most things. You know, repair people, you can help them get bids, and you can help them put the package together. Now, presentation wise, you're probably better at presenting it because you know the market. So go help your clients by going in with them. And they should pay you for this. I mean, they should be more than glad to pay you. And my wife does our real estate clients. I do others. And she charges in the $300 to $500 range, depending on how elaborate it is. And nobody's ever said they didn't earn it. So help your clients.
Very good. And again, going back to Karen's question, in working with difficult counties, I see a lot of people saying X county is difficult to work with, Y county, Z county, every county it looks like is difficult to work with. So what best practices, what suggestions do you have for working with those difficult counties?
Well, again, do the best you can in rebutting the evidence. Most people go in and they don't. I can't tell you the number of realtors I talk to that don't even know what an I-file is. Okay, so that's what you got to rebut, is that evidence. So get that I-file. And I think if you do that in repairs, you'll be much more successful in going in. Try that and see if that works, because that's what I do. I mean, the first thing I do is lay out what they've done and try to say why, what they say. I guess the philosophy that I know HCAD has, that the chief appraiser have, and several people in that organization have, we don't know everything. If you have better information for us, give it to us, we will evaluate. And that's the way it should be. And that's the attitude. Don't go in mad. Go in trying to say, here's information that you probably don't have. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I think that approach can help. Try it. Can't do any more, not work. That's what I say.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. Somebody asked if you could speak to homes that were flooded, then repaired, and have jumped hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay. Okay, here's the deal, and I wasn't aware of this. Again, I learn stuff every day doing this. I saw a couple of notice properties that were flooded and repaired, and they went up 22% in 1 year. And they were homesteaded. So I called up Roland, the chief appraiser at HCAD, and said, Roland, what is going on here? He says, oh, weeds, the law is if you have a major event, such as a fire, a flood, to a property, then we can go back to the last good year before you had that. And if it took you 3 years to repair it, we can go ahead and go up 10 times 10 times 10. That's what the law allows you to do on a homestead property. So I was not aware of that. So I said, well, Ron, you probably need to put something in the paper and on the website about this to quell the riots. And he did. In fact, the next day they put a little model showing how it works. But that's part of the law. Now, that was changed last legislative session to the good. Now they're going to be using FEMA assigned numbers as to the level of the problem, okay? So if you have a flood, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 being totally destroyed. So they're going to use those numbers and kind of make it less subjective. Okay, so that should help us in the long run.
Okay. Quick question here from Marlene. When and how do you get the I-file?
After you protest, an I-file will be generated. You will be noticed if you go into the public side, okay, it'll say I-file. You can click on that. And if the homeowner has set it up, then the homeowner will put in their ID and the password, and then be able to get access to that file. That's why I say it's very important for you to get that information, how they put whatever login number, name they use and what password, in order for you to also look at the file. Or have them send you the first 11 pages, scan the first 11 pages. But as we know, most clients don't know how to scan, and so you better get the password and figure out how to get in yourself.
Okay. I saw this question a few times. How do you protest quality since it's so subjective?
Pictures, repairs.
Okay.
There's one.
And Terry also asked, can you describe what content should be in pictures? So I guess it's a good place for that question too.
Don't use realtor pictures that make a house look good, okay? I feel so bad when I go into a house and say, I'm here to take pictures to make your house look bad, okay? And they look at me like, why would you do that? I said, well, I'm going to take pictures of cracks. I'm going to take pictures of windows. I'm going to take pictures of warped floors. Give you an example. In the Heights, you've got the historic houses. What a disaster. They still have tube and knob wiring. Some of them, they have wood siding that's rotting. They got old windows that they can't replace because of the restrictions. You take pictures of those, and they love their house. And I feel bad because, you know, I think they're going to throw me out because I made their house look bad, but they love the benefit. One of the things I find in these older houses is the hardwood floors have been done so many times, they're paper thin. So to replace the hardwood floors, that's a major expense. You put that in. The box isn't updated, okay? The electrical box. Wiring, some have tube and knob. Old windows, rotted windows, okay? Roofs that were hail damaged. All that stuff. Get in contact with if you have a general contractor can help you put the bid together. And that's important.
Very good. So a few more questions about comparables here. Can you use comparable appraisal values for other homes in the neighborhood? Also, where was it? Francis said that sometimes the comparables that HCAD has are just kind of seem off the wall. Maybe they're just completely different. Lake lots or pools versus properties that don't have that. And then there was another question that I can't find right now, but it was basically saying that in the past, the appraiser has told me you can only go 1 year back. How can I get them to go 3 years back?
Well, again, if you have enough sales, you don't have to go 3 years back, and they won't. Okay. They'll go back as far as they need to get 5. Sometimes they can't find any. A good example is properties that flooded along Buffalo Bayou and River Oaks. I love the sales. They have clear, clean, level square sites that have no flood potential as comparables. Well, as soon as I point that out, they throw them out, and most appraisers will just shake their head. Now, I feel sorry for the appraiser, and I'll tell you why. I hate to say this. They are looking at a file. They've never seen it before, 9 chances out of 10. They have to defend what's in front of them on a computer. They don't have the time to listen to you. And they got to figure out how they're going to present their evidence. And that's not fair. Okay, it's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the ARB. But more and more, I'm sensing that the ARB members are more concerned about keeping their job than doing a fair job. Because if they side too much with the property owner, they'll get chastised. They'll be told, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate, but that's the sense of what's going on. I have a friend who spent 1 year on the board, and he just threw his hands up and said, I don't want to be on there with these people anymore. But I'll tell you a funny story, just to add a little humor to this. When he was being interviewed, he was asked, will you have trouble sitting in a small room with no windows all day? He says, well, I was in the Army and I drove a tank, so I don't think I will. But that was his feedback to them, that he could sit in that room because he was in a tank. So maybe that's what it's like for those people. Think about the people you're dealing with and work with your audience. We as realtors are very good at body language, reading people, and understanding what's important to them.
Heather asked, and I saw this question a couple times too, what is the difference between sales and equity?
Sales are that which up to 3 years have sold that are equivalent to your house. Equity are properties that have not sold, but they think are equivalent to your house.
Okay.
They're the ones that are most screwed up. I've seen equity properties when they used to have tables of 9, where a price of a house was 1.5 million, and they compared it to a house of 2.9 million and did the adjustments to make it 1.5. I'm sorry, that doesn't quite work. And the appraisers usually laugh to themselves and just discount that and just say, "Nah, you're right, it doesn't work."
Mm-hmm.
But the attitude I go in with is one of explaining why things they don't have the information. Here's better information for you. And that really plays well, because they're not on the defensive right away. Okay. And that's how I usually get what I want.
Yeah. So I have just a couple more questions. I see it's 12:58, so we have 2 minutes left. And then, of course, your information's on the screen. If anybody didn't get their question answered, I'm sorry. There was a lot of questions I tried to bundle together to get answered for you guys. Tanya asked, will bids for costs of repairs needed suffice as justification for reducing the values that amount?
What was that question again?
So will the bids for cost of repairs needed suffice as justification for the protest?
It should. It should do that, as long as you have good pictures to support those bids. Okay. And the work doesn't have to have been done, and the work could have to be done. Okay. But have the bids and have them dated fairly, any more than 6 months old won't work for you.
Okay. That's a good measure. Thank you. So another question I saw a lot of was, will HAR be holding Ray's CE class? We will. We don't have an exact date yet, so be on the lookout for that. I'm sure we will be advertising it to you guys very soon. Yes, this was recorded, and there were many, many requests, Ray, for your slides in addition to the recording. So would it be okay for us to get a copy of your slides?
Most certainly, I'll send it over to you.
Okay, great. So anybody that was registered for this webinar, we will send you both a link to the recording and to Ray's slides. So thank you so much, Ray. Did you have anything else you want to share before we wrap this up?
Well, I want to thank everybody for getting on. This is I can't believe that 210 people will want to listen to me, but it's kind of interesting. And thank you all, and stay safe.
Yes, thank you all for joining. And again, har.com/webinars. You can sign up for the upcoming classes that we have, the upcoming, virtual events that we have scheduled as well. We have a lot of them scheduled in May, so be sure to go sign up. A lot of people thanking you, Ray, for your time, saying we need Ray's CE class. This is great timing. So thank you again, Ray. We really appreciate it.
Okay, y'all have a good one. Take care. Go get business.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.